RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your weekly 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, life, IFBB pros, competitions. We are in the thick of the contest schedule. Whatever is on your mind, it is all on the table. If you want to ask a question, you could join us on the Muscle Central Forum on RxMuscle.com. If you haven't already registered, it is free to do so. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can ask your question in the comment section. And if you haven't already subscribed, do so by hitting the subscribe button below. Like this episode. You're not going to miss any of our shows, segments, or updates. Or you can join us on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter using hashtag AskDave. As we bring in Dave Palumbo from Cape Coral, Florida. Dave, yesterday we launched the first episode. I know we've done other behind-the-scenes episodes with you, but officially the first My Life series episode with your son Logan and drawing rave reviews.
Yeah, Johnny came to my house about, maybe it was almost 2 months ago now, I think it was. It feels like at least a month and a half ago, and filmed me for the whole half of my day, I should say, leading up right to when I left my office, or I think I went for a bike ride, I think, something like that. And we had the Arnold came up, and we had all this traveling we were doing, so I didn't want the footage to get lost. So this week was even though we're going to Germany this week, I said let's put the first two parts up. So he put the first part up that basically shows my little morning ritual of my son. And then part two is going to be some of the cool stuff, some cooking stuff and some injecting stuff and all that fun stuff. So yeah, people love to see the inside look into my life. I really have been so in shambles since the move that we're finally starting to get everything set up. The new offices will be in there next week. Probably be another week or two after that before we get them set up properly. But then you guys can get even a better look. So I hope you like the My Life stuff. We might start doing a lot more of that on a regular basis because of people liking it. If you notice that I'm wearing my Camel Crew shirt. I noticed that Bader posted up a picture of him and Ramy on Instagram saying that Ramy is officially now back with the Camel Crew.
Yes. After 3 years of quote-unquote BS, it seems as if Ramy is back with Bader and the Camel Crew. He just posted that on his Instagram just a short while ago. We are going to start on the Muscle Central Forum. Again, if you haven't already registered, it is free to register. We will go to Droll S. Dave, I've been dieting now for 4 months. Last 3 weeks, I switched to keto and loved it. It helped me lose that last bit of fat I wanted. I plan to be off my diet in a couple of days finally and going on vacation for a week. What do you recommend to be the best way to avoid rebounding too bad off of keto and getting back to a normal diet? I know I'll be having a lot of cheat meals as well as eating out a lot. Thanks.
It's amazing to me how everyone seems to be jumping on the ketogenic diet bandwagon. It's about time. I mean, I've been talking about it for over 15 years, probably close to 20 years, but 15 really hardcore, telling people the merits of it. Now I see everyone out there, putting out ketogenic products and people realizing that the best way to lose weight is to keep your carbohydrate intake low. And when you come off of a low-carb diet, obviously, and if you start eating tons and tons of carbs, you're going to get bloated. You're not going to necessarily get fat. You're going to get bloated because one of the advantages of being on a ketogenic, very low-carb diet is that you don't hold fluid. Because you can't hold fluid if you're not eating carbs. It's the glycogen inside the muscles that makes your body retain the fluid. So my suggestion to you is, especially if you're going on vacations, don't eat like a maniac. That's all. Don't go from nothing to everything, If you're eating 50 grams of carbs a day, go to 200 grams of carbs a day. How about that? Or how about this? Keep your carbs low at the meals where you're really not eating stuff that you totally enjoy. And then on the meals when you want to go out to dinner, have more. So if you keep your total carb content under 300 for the day, you're not going to bloat. If you go to 600, 700, 800 carbs and you're drinking mixed drinks with sugar in them, you're going to feel terrible. I mean, and that's coming off any diet. That's not just a ketogenic diet. Ask any bodybuilder after a show, no matter what diet they use, when they start drinking and eating the next couple of days, how bloated and how terrible they feel if they go too crazy. So once again, it's all about moderation. Plan how you're going to eat. Bring some stuff like shakes with you so you don't have to just eat 3 humongous meals a day, and you can maybe have a couple shakes in between. You got to be smart. If you want to be a bodybuilder and you want to look good, it's a 365-day-a-year job, even when you go on vacation.
You're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle. Reminder, tomorrow we're going to be joined by IFBB pro Nathan Diasha, the UK BFF champion from 2014. He is going to join us, of course, coming off his debut appearance at the Olympia competition. Nathan Diasha tomorrow, right here on RxMuscle.com. Let's go to IP1211. Dave, my question is, when you create your diet for your athletes, do you have low and high carb days, or do you just take X amount of carbs and slowly taper them down as he or she progresses?
I can't wait till next week when we're in our studio because we won't have any technical glitches, hopefully. Anyway, what I do is I start everyone out with more food than they need, and then I eliminate it. The biggest mistake you can make is giving someone too little food. And sometimes that happens because I've worked with people that I just can't believe how fast their metabolism is. I had never worked with them, and I just didn't give them enough food, and I had to actually up their food after a week or two. But I usually start guys out on protein, fat. When I say fat, I mean, at least half a gram of fat per pound that they weigh. Protein, I keep at 1.5 grams per pound. And then I give them some carbs. It's not usually a lot. It's like 100 to about 150 grams of carbs a day. And I'll usually do like 4 days, which I call the protein, fat, carb day. I usually do about 3 or 4 days of those in a row. And then I go to one day where I give them no carbs. I just give them protein and fat, just to get their body used to that, to how that diet type feels. And I'll stick with a routine like that, assuming that they're losing weight at 1 to 3 pounds a week. I'll keep them at that diet rotation. If they start stagnating and not losing weight, I start eliminating those protein, fat, carb days, and I go to more protein, fat days. So I might do 2 days protein, fat, carbs, 1 day protein, fat. And then at some point during the diet, if I have to get to a ketogenic diet, or I find that they'll be better off, because sometimes when your body fat gets really low, you start getting really hungry when you're still eating some carbs. So a lot of times taking the carbs completely out and going purely ketogenic makes it better, because now the brain is using fats as a fuel source. You're not as hungry. So once again, that's where coaching comes in. I could write my diet on paper. I've given out copies of how to put a ketogenic diet together. But the bottom line is how you manipulate the diet is going to dictate what kind of results your clients get.
Dave, you teased this before the last answer. A lot of fans have been asking us about the new studio this week. You're saying that the new RxMuscle studio should be in place and that we should be broadcasting from the new studios, correct?
Yeah, starting Monday, we will be broadcasting from there. Unfortunately, we won't have all the, the lighting and sets built, so it might still look like we're in the studio we're in right now, which is a very makeshift one.
But with a better internet connection.
Yes, with a better internet connection for sure.
And the other thing that a lot of fans have been asking us is for behind-the-scenes footage of the new studio, setting up the new studio, so that's in the works as well, correct?
Yeah, well, you're going to see when Johnny finishes putting up these My Life segments, you'll see the actual studio, but you'll see it with no sheetrock on the walls. You'll see how the building looked actually before it was built. And then I guess we'll come back probably in 2 weeks, and we'll do, once the studio's all decked out, we'll do a transformation type thing, how the studio transformed and what we did and how we set it up, and so people can get an inside look.
Jack wants to know if TRT is covered by insurance.
If you go to your regular doctor and you have low testosterone below 200, usually the range is 250, I think, to 850, or 200 to 850. If you're below 200, and look, if you're 300 or 400, that's still a little low. But if you're below 200, I think a doctor could legitimately put you on a prescription, and your insurance could cover it. A lot of times it's hard to find doctors that are that open-minded and thinking, so most people that I know of go to hormone replacement clinics. The best one that I know of and the easiest one to use is TitanMedicalCenter.com. If you go there and you call them up and just tell them Dave Palumbo RxMuscle sent you, they're going to give you a huge discount, and they're going to make it so easy for you because they're going to send you for blood work wherever you live. You can use your insurance for that. And then what they're going to do is they're going to schedule a Skype consult with the doctor there. And so you don't have to even go to Florida. You're just going to do a Skype consult with the doctor, and you're going to tell him what you want. Basically, hey, look, I'm looking for a little more testosterone, looking for some, HCG, looking for some estrogen blockade, and he'll probably prescribe a lot of that anyway, without me even saying it, without you even saying anything. And if you want to buy any of their injectable amino acids they got, or their glutathione, which I'm a big advocate of, you can get that too. And once again, once you have that Skype consult with the doctor, you just call up, put your order in, and it gets mailed to your house. I mean, that's the easiest way to do it. Yeah, does it cost a little bit of bucks, a couple $100? Yeah, but you know what? You know what you're getting is real. Everything's tested. You're told how to do it. It comes from a U.S. pharmacy. It takes the guesswork out of it, and it takes out the fear that what you're using is not good. So don't cheap out with yourself. I'm sure you waste a lot more money on going out to dinner and doing other crazy stuff. This is something that if you do have low testosterone, you're not feeling great, I'm telling you, contact Titan Medical.
Ben Becker, Sid, hate this show. Can you ask Dave about B6 P5P to lower prolactin? He also wants to know if there's a way that you can contact him. He lives in Fort Myers, to contact you about your about diet and protocols.
Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to the show, you can contact me directly at huge285@AOL.com. If you want to come down and have a personal in studio consult with me, that's fine as well. Next week, after we get back from Germany, FIBO this week. The question was, again, Sid, just remind me.
Let me go back to it. I pulled up another question. It was about lowering. Oh yeah, so he wants to know about B6 P5P to lower prolactin.
Yeah, to me, it's a very, 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 very poor way to lower prolactin. If you have high prolactin because you're taking decadurabolin or you're taking trenbolone and you're getting prolactin-induced side effects, you're not an inability to get erections, those type of side effects, or even discharge from your nipple, I would recommend using cabergoline or also known as Dostanex. At about 0.5 milligram 2 to 3 times a week. That's going to knock your prolactin down a lot better than any kind of B6 derivatives will. I just haven't seen the results from those.
Let's go to JRobs96. If Finasteride is a DHT suppressing drug, would running a DHT compound like Winnie be contradicting? Let's go with that one first. He has a second question as well.
It's a good question. I get asked it a lot, and I've answered the question a million times, but I'm going to continue answering it because people are confused about it. Just because a drug is derived from DHT doesn't mean it has the properties of DHT anymore. When they make snake venom, into cancer drugs, the people who take the drugs don't have to worry about dying from snake venom because it's not snake venom anymore. They've changed the composition, the chemical composition. It no longer has the actions of its old original compound. And same thing with Winstrol and Anavar and Masterone. They're derived. In other words, when they chemically make the stuff in the lab, they take DHT, dihydrotestosterone, and they chemically alter it. And they can actually tweak it and change it into these other molecules. But they don't retain the properties of DHT, which is prostate enlargement, hair loss, and acne. Winstrol doesn't cause acne. It doesn't cause hair loss. I know some people think it does, but it doesn't. I'm telling you. There is no concern that taking Finasteride with Winstrol is going to counteract the effects of Winstrol because it doesn't. First of all, Finasteride blocks the conversion of testosterone into DHT. So even if you were actually injecting DHT into your body and taking Finasteride, they would have no interaction with each other because all Finasteride does is inhibit the enzyme that converts testosterone into DHT. That's it. So no worries.
His second part was on SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and steroids.
I know a lot of people who take, antidepressants, which is what SSRIs are basically, while on anabolic steroids. And once again, it all boils, they don't really interact with each other, but it all boils down to mental state. A lot of people just don't have the head to be bodybuilders because they don't have that killer instinct. They don't like to suffer that much, or they tend to get depressed, easily because they have a chemical imbalance in their head. If the SSRI can correct that and make them feel better, and more focused in their training, then I think it's a great thing. The only problem is with some of these SSRIs, they do make you get gain body fat. I don't know why. They're negative partitioning agents that pretty much tell the body store calories as fat. And so a lot of people struggle, especially women, with weight gain on these things. So like Wellbutrin and stuff like that. So if that's a situation that's occurring, you might not want to use them, especially around contest time.
Let's go to Ian Crane. Dave, you've probably answered this a trillion times, but is there any truth to protein absorption limits? Should I not exceed a certain amount of protein in one sitting?
That's like saying the 26-foot, reticulated python needs the same amount of food as the 6-foot reticulated python. No, of course, the bigger snake can eat more food because it has the ability to assimilate that protein better. It has more muscle mass that it needs to replenish. So, if someone's 300-pound bodybuilder, they're going to need a lot more protein, per serving, okay, or per meal than say a guy who's 200 pounds would be. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that your stomach is the same size in both people. It's just how much muscle mass has to be supplied. So if I'm 300 pounds, I probably need 450 grams of protein to put muscle on, maybe more. If I'm 200 pounds, I probably can get away with 300 grams of protein a day to put muscle on. So if you're going to increase your protein intake, you're going to have to increase the amount of protein you eat per meal. So there's really no, is it 20 grams? Is it 30 grams? Is it 40 grams per meal? 50 grams? I don't know. Every person's different. At one point, I was eating 70 grams of protein per meal. So nowadays, I eat 25 grams of protein a meal because I'm not training as much and I'm not as big. So it's dependent on how the person looks and how much muscle mass they have on them.
Let's go to Sealdine, Pnhoes. I'm not going to spell that one out or pronounce it. Dave, the ideal body fat percentage to begin your first test cycle, a quote-unquote test cycle, will having more body fat affect your gains or increase estrogenic side effects?
How fat you are really shouldn't affect your gains. Obviously, you don't want to be obese because if you're really overweight and you're taking testosterone, it's making you hold fluid and gain more weight, you might just feel terrible and you might get sick. So in that sense, assuming you're not grossly overweight, and you just feel like, hey, I can't really see my six-pack as well as I'd like to, there's no reason to diet first before taking testosterone. If anything, you can diet on testosterone too. I mean, testosterone just makes everything work better, basically, in the body. Build muscle better, recover better, burn fat better. Okay, it optimizes the environment for physique development, if you may.
Let's go to Matthew_Powers. I hate this show more than Sean Ray hates standing room only concerts. You had mentioned ibuprofen was not optimal for pain due to stopping inflammation post-workout. I have shoulder issues which get inflamed, and I've been taking an ibuprofen dose almost daily per my doctor. Is there a better option that won't hurt muscle growth?
I have terrible shoulders. But sitting here right now talking to you, I'm not in pain. If I was in pain, I might have a different answer. Okay, if I was in pain, I might say, hey, if you're in pain, take pain meds, or take ibuprofen. Can you get away with Tylenol? If you use Tylenol for the pain and it works, then that's great because that doesn't inhibit inflammation. But ibuprofen does. So if you're going to take that on a daily basis, you might inhibit some muscle growth. Once again, if your inflammation is excessive, then you might not. Personally, I wouldn't be taking ibuprofen on a daily basis, although I did it in the past when I was a runner because I would get chronic tendonitis and I lived on this stuff. And thank God it didn't destroy my kidneys from all the stuff, from all the ibuprofen I took. But we used to take a lot when we would run because it would help you feel like you would recover faster. But I think the running is so severe that I think reducing some of that inflammation didn't necessarily hurt my gains. Not to mention that as runners, you don't care, you don't want to be big, you want to be small anyway. You just want to be fast. So to answer your question, I would try to do away with it without using it, at least not every day, and just use it when you absolutely need it.
Let's go to Joseph Leon or Leon85_NPC. Question from Costa Rica. Dave Bader Budai recently posted on his IG a photo, actually what you had started the broadcast with, about Big Ramy returning to the Camel crew after quote-unquote 3 years of BS. This means no Chris Aceto. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Chris and I talked about this, and we had an iron debate about this already, quite a bit. I think, living in Kuwait, training at Bader Badai's Oxygen Gym there, it's easier for Ramy to work with them because they're right there. I know that him and Chris have a very good relationship. I understand also probably that Ramy he feels obligated a little bit to the Camel crew out there. I mean, after all, they put him on the national scene. They supported him. They made him who he is. And he's kind of their poster child out there. I mean, we all think of Oxygen Gym. We think of Big Ramy out there. So it's like kind of having like a guy under exclusive contract with a magazine, except he's under contract with Oxygen Gym. And really, that's he's their front guy. Would I like to see him work with Chris Aceto? I just want to see Ramy look the best he can look. I want to see him win the Olympia. If this new, reuniting with the Camel crew is going to get him an Olympia title and make him look his best, then I'm all for it. If he does the Olympia and he doesn't look his best and he looks worse, then I think it was a mistake for him to leave Aceto, and I think he should consider going back. So, the fact that every year Ramy seems to try something different is not necessarily a good thing because he needs consistency. But let's try it out. Once again, I'm friends with everyone. I love Bader. I love the Camel crew. I love Chris. There's no bad blood here. We just want to see Ramy at his best. Hopefully he'll get the right combination this time.
Let's go to KRK Quilly or Guile. Dave, what do you think is better for bulking? 800 tests a week or 500 tests plus 300 deca a week?
My initial instinct would say go with the higher test value, but I will say one thing. 2 steroids together are exponential, meaning that they amplify each other. So 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 + 1 on a steroid might equal 5. So you're going to get more bang for your buck using 2 compounds than just using a single compound. And I do like the higher testosterone amount, but once again, if it's a matter of finances, if you're not able to do both at the right higher dosage, then I would say do 2.
Let's go to Evan Lore. Dave, when I take a pre-workout with caffeine, I actually start feeling more tired and want to fall asleep in the gym. Are my adrenal glands shot, or is this something else?
One more time, Sid. I just missed the beginning of it.
Yeah, no problem. So he's every time he takes a pre-workout with caffeine, he actually starts feeling more tired and wants to fall asleep in the gym. Are his adrenal glands shot, or is this something else?
It might be a weak pre-workout. I don't know what he's using because pre-workouts usually work all the time. I mean, so I don't know. It's hard for me to figure out, if he's using a high stim pre-workout, you should feel awake. I mean, more so than not taking anything. I've never heard of doing the opposite. Now, some people who take too much nitric oxide releasing compounds like arginine can get almost like a depression going because they exhaust their nitric oxide supplies in their body. But this doesn't sound like what's happening to him. It sounds like he's actually just getting tired, which to me is a miracle given the fact that some of these pre-workouts out there are really, really strong. So maybe you should check the ingredient list on your product and maybe try another pre-workout from another company and see how it works out for you.
Alex Rivera, NPC 76. Dave, currently in Erbil, Iraq. Someone asked me about this stuff called PGCL, cloprostanol sodium. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, we were experimenting with that back in the 90s, believe it or not. It's a prostaglandin, PGF2, I believe it is. And some of the research that had come out was that it can cause localized muscle growth and that it can be lipolytic, meaning it can burn body fat. And we all tried it. And one of the things, just to deviate, if you ever got the flu, okay, when you get the flu, what do you get? You get that achy bone feeling, you get a fever, you get nauseous, right? Well, those side effects of the flu are all caused by the release of local acting hormones known as prostaglandins in the body. When you take this PGF2 product, okay, it completely mimics the effects of having the flu. Right down to the stomach ache and wanting to poop, down to the nauseousness, down to every side, even feverish. Why anyone would want to take it? I tried to get through a 30cc bottle at 1 cc per day. I couldn't get through 15 days of it. I felt so terrible. And it did not burn fat and it did not build local muscle. I promise you that. And I know guys that suffered through 3 bottles of the stuff and never got any gain. So while, sometimes in theory things should work, in practical carrying it out, it doesn't. And this is a product I would just stay away from.
Alan Marashi, Dave, I hate this show more than I hate Sid for hyping us all up about a potential iron debate involving you, Blackman, Sean Ray. But in all seriousness, great April Fool's joke. By the way, so if you're watching, there is no iron debate tomorrow. That was an April Fool's joke, because we are still getting people asking us about this iron debate with Dave and Blackman and Sean Ray. It's not actually. It was an April Fool's joke. It was posted on April's 1st. All right. Question is, there's a lot of chatter about having trend higher than test due to Boston Lloyd saying that because they both compete for the same receptors. Do you agree with the science behind his statement, and would a 1-to-1 ratio of test to trend be more appropriate?
You got a little garbled up in the beginning, and so if you can repeat just what you said about, before you said the 1-to-1 ratio?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of chatter about having trend higher than test due to Boston Lloyd saying that because they compete for for the same receptors.
Yeah, no, they don't. The androgen receptor is the androgen receptor. Taking more trenbolone, if anything, is going to downplay the anabolic effects of testosterone, and so we don't want that. You always want more testosterone than anabolic. That's just the way it goes. Trenbolone happens to be more androgenic than testosterone, yet it does not aromatize. It doesn't convert to estrogen. However, testosterone is more anabolic muscle building than trenbolone is. So trenbolone will make you more aggressive, will make you store glycogen better, will make you stronger than testosterone, but testosterone will build more muscle, and that's what we're looking for. So when you sit down and you create a cycle, you want to make sure that your testosterone is above the anabolics. Now, I know some guys, they'll just take 1,000 milligrams of test and 1,000 milligrams of trenbolone. That's insane. You don't need that much anabolic, in there. And taking that much trenbolone is not going to be good for you, because it's going to raise your blood pressure, it's going to put stress on your kidneys, and your nervous system is going to be shot. You're never going to be able to sleep at night. So 300 milligrams per week, 300 to 400 probably the most, is more than adequate for trenbolone. Probably less is even better. And I like to do 750 to 1,000 to even maybe 1,200 milligrams of testosterone a week, and that's ideal.
Let's go to Muscle by Monis, good friend of the show. Dave, can you explain the differences and or advantages of the fibrous sources chitosan and versus psyllium husk powder?
What do you say? Chitosan or Ketosan or something like that?
Yeah. Chitosan.
I believe that is more of a laxative, and it's a little too abrasive for the gut. Psyllium is perfect, because I'll tell you why. It's a source of soluble fiber that the gut bacteria can actually ferment. And the advantage of that is that when they ferment that, those fermentation products will go to the liver and tell the liver to stop producing glucose. What that does is it lowers blood sugar, and it lowers excessive amounts of blood sugar that normally wouldn't be there, and thus lowers insulin. So while you're dieting, it really is going to be helpful to burning body fat. Obviously, soluble fiber coming from psyllium is 8 times more potent than oat bran on a gram for gram basis. So you're getting a lot more punch for your pack, or getting much more punch for your dollar, so to speak. And psyllium also has a regulatory effect on the body of moving waste through the body at a good speed. It doesn't act like a laxative like some of these other fibrous products do, but it moves ingredients through the intestinal tract at an optimal rate. So if you have a hyperactive abdominal situation going on, irritable bowel, something like that, it will slow down your body's ability to go to the bathroom. So once again, some people, if you go to the bathroom and you have diarrhea, that means the food is moving through your intestinal tract too quickly, and the water is not getting taken out in the colon the way it should. Likewise, if you get constipated, it means too much water is being taken out of the waste products, because it's sitting in your colon too long. So soluble fiber, especially psyllium, will push things through at the optimal rate. Once again, we can only build muscle and burn fat as efficiently as we can remove waste from the body. We don't want to move it too. We don't want to remove it too fast before it's digested and the water is taken in. But we also don't want it sitting there too long, where we can reabsorb toxins that are sitting in that waste.
Take a couple of quick questions. One from Jacked and Stacked 1. Dave, your thoughts on taking a baby aspirin, 81 mgs at bedtime, to help lower blood pressure and thin out the blood caused by anabolic steroid intake?
A baby aspirin will thin your blood for certain, but it's not going to lower your blood pressure. Blood pressure is not high because the blood has more of an ability to clot or less of an ability to clot. It's just blood pressure is just high because either there's excessive fluid retention, maybe there's too many red blood cells in the body, and you might need to go do a blood dump because you have too much hemoglobin hematocrit in your body. But the baby aspirin is just going to prevent clots. Now, if you take enough fish oil a day, like I recommend people take 3,000 milligrams a day of fish oil, 2,600 milligrams of primrose oil, similar to what I put into my Omega Lyse, well, exactly what I put in my Omega Lyse species nutrition product. If you take that every day, that's like your baby aspirin. Those fish oils are anti-inflammatory and anticoagulants. They will keep your blood thin. Okay, same thing with vitamin E. If you take vitamin E every day, it will keep your blood thin. So I don't really think it's necessary to take a baby aspirin if you're taking a lot of fish oil and vitamin E and similar products to that.
Take one more question from GCT09. Dave, hate this show. Question: can I use Testalize around the year with no problems?
You absolutely can, because it's not suppressing anything. It's what it's doing is it's just optimizing your testosterone environment naturally, which is great because it's not using any drugs to do this. So it's boosting testosterone. It's keeping estrogen and DHT lower than they need, or low, so they don't get too elevated and you don't lose your testosterone to these other hormones. And once again, there's no stress on the body, and there's no receptor downgrade. So most people do stay on Testalize year round, especially the natural athletes that I have using it.
That's going to do it for this episode of Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Remember to visit speciesnutrition.com. For Johnny Styles and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.